The Mayan civilization is one of the most mysterious in the entire existence of mankind. It would seem that modern technology should make it possible to study these ancient people up and down, but the more scientists discover, the less they understand who these people really were. Did you know that there is a 70-million-year-old underground village in Belgium? Finds that gave you goosebumps await you in this video, mystical and creepy. Watch the video until the end, it will be interesting. Hi friend, you're on the KirTop channel. Stone ram heads. Egyptian archaeologists are completing large-scale excavations on the Avenue of the Sphinxes, a 3,000-year-old road that connects the Karnak and Luxor temples. The 2,700-meter alley was built by Pharaoh Amenhotep III in the 12th century BC&S. Once it included more than 1,200 statues and was of great ritual significance. Over time, it was covered with sand and many of the statues were damaged. Excavations in the area of the Karnak temple have been going on since the 1940s with long breaks. In 2010, Egypt decided to tidy up the site and open it up to tourists. By 2020, the territory has been explored by 98%. By this time, many ancient artifacts were discovered here, including many of the lost ram-headed sphinxes. In ancient Egypt, the ram was a symbol of Amun-Ra, the patron saint of power, energy, and fertility. Installed next to the necropolises, the ram-headed sphinxes also acted as guards, silently calling for awe-inspiring silence. 3 more heads of rams were recently found. One of them is dedicated to King Amenhotep III. It has a horn, an eye, and a hole in which a cobra is placed. It is known that the crown of Amenhotep III had holes for a snake. The restorers will return the heads to their places, so that they again turn into mythological sphinxes located on both sides of the alley. Scientists call this ancient road an open-air museum, and now work on its restoration has entered the final stage. Soon, presumably in November, the opening ceremony of this monument will take place. Mummy paint. The names of paints are often called very beautifully, but they can hide terrible secrets. So, for example, Mummy Brown is not just a funny name referring to ancient Egyptian culture. This paint has long kept a terrible secret of its production. It was made from mummies. For a long time, the pre-Raphaelite artist's favorite paint was the brown Mummy Brown. It was very difficult to mix a delicate, noble amber shade, so the paint was really popular. It was sold until the 60s of the last century, and it was produced as follows. Particles of real mummies were mixed with dried resin and myrrh tree. Many artists have used this paint. Traces of mummies can be found on the canvases of the Lector and Burns. The use of mummies in paint can be startling, but this is far from the only aspect of the use of Egyptian remains. Ironically, in Europe, mummies were also used in medicine in the development of medicines. Embalming the bodies of the deceased, the Egyptians used not only bandages but also other materials: beeswax, resin, spices, bitumen. So bitumen was not only an important ingredient for the preservation of the body, but, as was previously thought, in small doses a useful substance for the living. Many medieval doctors believed that another worldly force lived in the remains of mummies, which was able to heal the living. So the famous Paracelsus believed. For a long time, the mummies were consigned to oblivion, but after the Napoleonic campaign, interest in Egypt increased again, and mummies are back in fashion. They were brought as an outlandish souvenir to many European homes, and then they found more useful applications. They were used as fuel and even fertilizers. People refused to use Mummy Brown when they realized that this consumerist attitude was undermining the study of Egyptian culture. Crusader sword at sea. While diving, Shlomi Katzin, a resident of the Israeli city of Atlet, discovered a 900-year-old sword. There were other ancient artifacts nearby. Layers of sand at the bottom suddenly revealed a real treasury. Archaeologists have long observed this area, a natural cove that has sheltered sheep for thousands of years. Earlier discoveries showed that the area was inhabited as early as 4,000 years ago. Representatives of the Israel Antiquities Authority note that recently the number of people engaged in diving in the area is growing. Experts attribute this to their desire to find antiques. Unpredictable ocean conditions often bring artifacts to the surface. Even the smallest storm can move sand, exposing some areas of the seabed and filling others. Katzin, in addition to the sword, noticed fragments of pottery as well as stone and metal anchors. A sword about a meter long is made of iron. It is still densely covered with shells and other growths, so scientists are not ready to tell about its owner. Specialists have begun work to clean up the artifact. In any case, his story will be interesting. amazing. Starting in the 11th century, the Roman Catholic Church sent Crusader armies to the Middle East. Their task was to return the sacred places from Christians. The Crusaders and their opponents, the Muslim Ayyubids and Mamluks, used straight swords of the same size and shape. However, since this sword was discovered less than 200 meters offshore, researchers are almost certain that it is a Crusader weapon. In those days, Muslims built fortifications along the coast as a defense against Christians arriving by boat. They themselves did not travel by sea. Find in the secret room of the Temple of the Inscriptions. It is not known exactly who discovered the ancient settlement of Palenque. It is clear that this happened only in the 18th century, because the jungle reliably hid the city of the mysterious Maya. Palenque is at least 2,000 years old and has not been explored for a long time. Only in the middle of the last century an expedition was sent to study this settlement. The attention of its members was immediately riveted by a huge pyramid, later called the Temple of the Inscriptions. A huge slab was found here, and according to the assumptions of the researchers, the Maya left their message on it. In total, about 620 characters were counted. Needless to say, it was not possible to decipher them. But this is not the most surprising thing either. Scientists have noticed the floor of the pyramid. It was lined with stone slabs. One of them had many of the same round holes. The slab was raised and a passage was found under it, which led far down to the base of the ancient structure. The staircase was 16 meters long, and it took scientists 4 years to study it. Scientists faced many obstacles. These were both stone walls, tightly connected with lime and sand, and a slab 4 meters thick. When all the tests were passed, the scientists saw the entrance to the crypt. It was a small room. On its walls there are 9 images of people. In the center was a sarcophagus with a lid, lavishly decorated with symbols and drawings, the mass of which was 9 tons. Inside was the body of a man covered with precious stones. The find was sensational because it was the first Mayan tomb temple discovered. However, the enchanting discoveries did not end there. Among other slabs in the sarcophagus, one stood out, made in a slightly different technique. A reproduction of the image from the plate was made, which was further studied using a special computer program. The results stunned everyone. When the image became three-dimensional, the scientists saw something like the cockpit of a spacecraft and the person controlling it. Of course, this puzzled everyone. It is still not clear what exactly scientists discovered: the Mayan ruler or a representative of another civilization, or it was all a clever fake. Village 70 million years old. This story is rather dark, strange, and mysterious. Was an underground settlement 70 million years old really found in Belgium? And who lived in it? Let's start in order. A very religious artist, Robert Garcia, fascinated by the Bible and ancient civilizations, decided to build a fairy castle with biblical characters in the village of Eben Emael in the province of Henengoven, Belgium. It took Robert 15 years to build what he had conceived, and today the castle serves as a museum dedicated to the art of Garcia and his archaeological finds. Garcia Castle has 7 levels, 5 levels above the ground and 2 levels below the ground. The structure itself is 12 meters square on each side, supported by 4 towers at each corner. Garcia deliberately designed the castle to match ancient measurement systems. Each dimension in the tower is symbolic. The constructed masterpiece, Ebenezer, is a personification of humanity described in the Book of Revelations. 4 giant statues of biblical creatures are erected on the tops of the towers: an eagle, a bull, a lion, and a man. The interior of the castle is filled with biblical, archaeological, paleontological, and geological works by Garcia. So, during construction, while digging a pit under the foundation, Garcia's builders discovered a whole network of tunnels, more than 100 fossils, and what is most incredible, underground, not far from the construction site, cave structures similar to a village in a layer 70 million years old. In general, there are a lot of underground tunnels in Belgium, and some of them are so long that they have not yet been fully explored. Well-preserved remains of Mosasaur's skull were also found there. When Garcia explored the nearby underground flint mines and tunnels, he found many stone toys and figurines. Some look like stone dolls made of rounded flat stones with engraving. They all look very primitive and unlike what ordinary archaeologists are used to. Garcia scanned the underground village and discovered straight walls, tables, benches, and decorative ornaments carved into the walls. It looked like an ordinary village with streets, only this one was underground. Above the village are 3 layers of oceanic sediments, which indicates that Belgium was covered by the ocean 3 times. The layer where the underground village is located is 70 million years old. Of course, this is a controversial archaeological discovery because the cave village could have been excavated much later. It might be interesting for scientists these days to explore an ancient underground village in Belgium, but it's too late. By a strange coincidence, the village was destroyed by an explosion in a mined before it could be explored? Why was this opening closed? Why didn't anyone want to explore this place? And why were these cave structures clearly deliberately destroyed? A version suggests itself that this place was known to archaeologists, but apparently the finds did not fit into the modern officially accepted interpretation of ancient history, and when the village was accidentally discovered, it was simply destroyed. Leave your opinion in the comments under the video, it will be interesting for me to read. Or just leave a kind comment, that will be enough. Thanks for your views, bye everyone!